Hey folks, this is Vent with Dad's Gaming Addiction, and today we're going to quickly review Star Trek Resurgence. This is a game that you can currently find on the Epic Store for about 40 bucks or so. I myself got it for fairly cheap, 40% off plus another 33% off during the winter sale. So what is this game all about? Well, it's kind of like the Telltale's The Walking Dead meets Star Trek. You're going to be controlling two characters in this game. One is in a position of command as the first officer. Her name is Jara. And then the other character is more of like an engineer. His name is Diaz. And you're going to be flip-flopping between these two characters and making decisions for them via dialogue options. There's no open world or anything like that. This is a complete narrative story. Characters will come and go, and typically you're going to respond to them in various ways. And depending on how you respond, they will either like you or dislike you. You can actually hit the pause menu and see how they feel about you at that point in time. There will be various cameos from people that you know from the Star Trek universe, but they're few and far between. As you can see in this particular scene, Ambassador Spock does make an appearance, and there's one other character I don't want to spoil for you. And that's going to be the real challenge of this particular video. I'm only going to show you very early footage. It took me about 8 hours to complete this entire game, and I will say I really enjoyed the story. It's like 10 out of 10 for me. It felt like a Star Trek episode. That being said, there are a lot of technical issues that really weigh it down. First and foremost, I had to go into the INI file and adjust some settings. The options menu in-game is horrid. There's no screen resolution or anything like that. So you actually have to unlock the frames per second. There's just so much stuttering. I don't know how you can put such a great game behind this awful build of a program. I don't understand that. The backbone of this game is completely awful, and that's a real shame because the game has such potential. But it's like the developers created a great story, but then didn't know how to give players the options to get it to work mechanically. So I actually had to go into the settings file, the INI file, and adjust some things as were recommended on the Reddit page. And once I did that, the stuttering went away. So I spent an hour trying to get this game to work. And once I did, though, I was sort of just clear coasting it. There was some stuttering here and there, but it wasn't anything bad. It was something I was like, oh, that doesn't make... Okay, now it fixed itself. And then it was few and far between. So that was a lot, it was just a lot better once I fixed it, but I shouldn't have to. That's my point. So the whole plot of this game, you've got these two factions that are kind of at war with each other. There's, and you're kind of sent in to negotiate and to try and make peace between these two peoples. Now, there is a much larger threat behind the scenes, but again, I don't really want to spoil anything more than that, because you will be a little surprised by what's actually happening, and it actually ramps up. It's kind of like typical Star Trek in the early onset of the game. Yeah, you're sent in to make peace, but then toward the end of the game, 6 to 7 hours in, it turned into an episode of Voyager or one of the later Star Treks where there's a lot of action going on. So even though it starts off boring, it actually gets a lot better. But again, I really can't tell you how without spoiling a whole lot. In addition to walking around the limited environments that you're in and talking to people, and like I said, you will be able to quickly see at a glance how they feel about you. And that you can even toggle between the two characters at will, at least to see how they're doing. But you have no control over, you can't switch from one character to another during a particular scene. It's just, okay, now I'm controlling the first officer. Now I'm controlling the engineer, that kind of thing. There are a lot of QTE in this game, quick time events. You're going to be, interacting with consoles. You're going to be hitting W and holding it in while you click the left mouse button to adjust something. On occasion, you'll fire a phaser or two at something. You'll pull out your tricorder. There's even a one-off shuttle sequence where you have to fly through some rings, which was god-awful, by the way. Yeah, there's even a stealth thing, but it's just as bad as Metal Gear and Skyrim in that you'll be right in front of their face and huh? And then for 5 seconds, a little eyeball will start to fill up, and then you can walk away. Oh, I guess it was nothing. You know, it was one of those things. Must have been the wind. But it's just, so the stealth action sequences in this game, not great. My favorite part was actually, like, there's not a whole lot of games where you can actually pull out your tricorder and start scanning things. It becomes a seek and find at that point. A lot of times it's like, find the thing in the environment that the game wants you to scan and just, you know, advance to the next part. It's fun. It sort of breaks the whole dialogue thing, but still. So another big glaring issue with this game is the fact that you can't actually save it whenever you want. Let's say that you're in the middle of a particular chapter or whatnot, and you have to quit or leave. You have to replay that chapter all over again. Luckily, each chapter, I want to say, is like 5 minutes or so. So the game doesn't do a great job either as to telling you when it's saving. There's a little like icon that'll show up for a split second on the bottom right when it's switching scenes, but I typically never knew if it was saving or not. It was just, yeah, it was frustrating. Like I said, like the story is great, but like the mechanical aspects of this game behind the scenes are just god awful. I enjoyed the phaser fights, you know, what limited number of them there were. It was mainly like it was kind of like Mass Effect, where you're behind a barricade or something, and then you pop up for a brief period of time at your leisure and just start shooting things. There was like, I want to say 5 to 10 of those sequences throughout the entire game. Some of these enemies will target your mission critical person, so you have to stop them from shooting them. There are objects that you can shoot. It wasn't as fluid as it could be. Typically, like if I've killed the 7th guy or 8th guy or stunned them, whatever, then the scene would like instantly change on me, and I'm like, oh, I guess we're doing this now. So it was like there was no smooth transition between like cutscenes and the firefights, for example. Like I'm in the middle of a firefight shooting things, I'm in the zone, and then bam, the cutscene changes, and I'm like, oh, I guess I'm done. I'm done with this now. There was no smooth transition, is what I'm trying to say. But as a whole, I really enjoyed this, aside from, you know, the stealth sequences, which were frustrating toward the end, and that whole shuttlecraft gotta fly through the rings thing. They could have done without that. I was hoping for something a little bit more fun. And I didn't know this, but like I replayed the same spot like 3 times because I kept dying. Rather than actually fly through the rings, I avoided them completely and just flew toward my target destination, and I actually got there a lot faster. So I don't know why it made me fly through rings in the first place when I can just like veer off course and do what I wanted. It's strange. So it's like they wanted to add this particular scene after the fact because it was supposedly fun to do. I still recommend this game, not at the full $40 price because of its mechanical problems, but as a Star Trek story, it is fantastic. I want to play it again and try different choices to see if they really do matter. But all in all, it was a fun experience. I highly recommend that you do adjust some settings via the INI file before you start playing this game. Otherwise, you're going to have some stuttering, and it's just not going to be playable. Especially the voice. The voices were stuttering and all over the place. And I actually refunded the game once, and then once I cooled down, I rebought it and then tried again. I did some research, and I finally got it to work. I'm just saying, like, it turned me off that much to the point where I wanted to refund it. And that should say something about the backbone of this game. If you're tech savvy and you can get the settings to be to your liking and get the game to work, then you'll find an extremely satisfying Star Trek story here, one with a lot of edge to it too. The only real beef I had with the story was I felt like it could have done better resolving everything. Like there was one big glaring thing that was happening, trying really hard not to spoil this. And I'm like, well, what about this part of it? What about these particular people? What's going to happen to them? And they never said what would happen. So I have to wonder, is there a sequel coming? I would love to see a sequel sort of picking up on that part of it and seeing whether or not everything is okay. Long story short, I'm trying not to spoil this, but I wish there was more closure, and I wish they explained more at the end. But other than that, it was a fantastic story. So definitely get this on the Epic Store during this winter sale. Again, 40% off plus another 33% off with its coupon. This is Vince. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you all next time. Take care.